Hello, everyone, and welcome. I see folks still filtering in, so we'll just wait here for about 30 seconds and give everyone a chance to get settled. Great. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Emily. I'm the VP of Marketing at BluStream, and I will also be today's moderator for our session, Don't Get Left Behind. BluStream is easier than ever. If you're joining us today, chances are you've heard about BluStream. Maybe you've seen us in action through Connolly Music. Maybe you've heard about it from a peer at an event like NAMM, or maybe you've just been curious about how BluStream actually works. And today we're going to spend a lot of time, we're not going to spend a lot of time on trends or theory. Instead, we want to show you exactly how BluStream works, how easy it is to get started, and what results retailers are already seeing. I'm joined today by three people who know this better than anyone. We have Ken Rapp, the CEO of BluStream, Jake Connolly, president of Connolly Music, and Peter Sides, president of RM Sides. Over the next 45 minutes, Ken will walk us through what's changed and he'll share results from our latest white paper. We'll see a live demo about getting started, and then we'll open up for a conversation with all three panelists, including questions that the audience may have for us. Let's dive in, Ken.
Thank you, Emily. Can you hear me okay? Great. Well, I first want to extend my thanks to Peter and Jake. It's an honor actually to be on this panel and workshop with you guys, and really look forward to diving into your experiences. Jake, with you and Connolly Music, it's been a delightful experience for the past couple of years. We're just so proud to be part of your team out in the industry. And Peter, look forward to some of the insights we were chatting about earlier, you sharing with our audience. So I'm going to start by giving a brief intro to BluStream, very brief, and then dive into some technology and some of the advances in the tools. And I'll start by saying that, that is how we play a role in the industry and as partners to you, to make sure that we're listening to what your needs are and continuing to improve our technology and our resources, providing accelerated ways to get things done, and better listening and support for you. That's our role in the industry, to help advance the technology. I like to start here because, yes, that's me. May not look like me anymore, but that's me with a bow playing some Led Zeppelin in a rock band that I played at. But one of my acoustic guitars actually cracked. And it cracked because I live in the Boston area, and it was a cold, dry winter. And I didn't know that it was sensitive to the humidity, even though I have a few guitars. And so we asked ourselves, some friends and I, why didn't the guitar actually talk to us? It was, we had a lot of interactions with the suppliers before I bought the guitar, but afterwards there was a gap between me having a support problem and all the time that I wanted to spend using and playing the guitar, which I still have today up on my wall with its cracks to remind me of the founding of BluStream. So what we really started researching was the value of a connected customer. And I think for all of us, if you think about your stores, McKinsey says they're worth 10 times their first purchase. And I said to myself, well, that's interesting. That sounds pretty big. But then I started thinking about, the consumers or the customers that come into your stores, and you know their names, and their families, and what kind of instruments they've purchased or rented, and so you really actually do have a connection to those super customers who ultimately probably do spend 10 times that first purchase over the lifetime of working with them. And so we took that concept and said, boy, how can we help businesses connect to their customers so that they have that same relationship and experiences as they grow and scale? And so that's what BluStream is all about, is we really believe that every customer should be like that best customer that comes in and out of the store, which is very hard to do without technology to assist you. And so just to summarize and on that point, that super customer in your stores that you work with, you have a very personalized connection with them. You know what they play, you know how often they play, maybe their challenges, you know how happy they are and how to recommend the right thing for them individually. And so we really see that as our mission and our part in partnering with the industry to say we have to provide technology that allows that personalized guidance to enable more best customers for you. We all know that personally, when I've bought things and after I purchase it, I start unboxing it, and sometimes I struggle to I don't have the instructions or I'm trying to read the instructions and it doesn't really work that way. It's in 5 languages. And so you really can see a dramatic fall off in that super customer wanting to be part of your family and your brand. And so that's what we're all about, is trying to drive up those that might not be able to make it, into this great connection with you as you go forward. Okay, so where are we now compared to where we were a year ago, 2 years ago, even 10 years ago? BluStream has been in business, and we've moved to advance the technology on 3 levels. One is the conversations that take place, which we call journeys. I'm going to show you an actual journey creation live, but it's based off of templates, 15 plus templates for renting different kinds of instruments in our industry. And so the foundation of creating the journey is going to come right from the experience base we have on that's generated a template that we use, as well as the data that we see from the interactions going on. The second thing we're going to talk about is, okay, once that journey is created, how would you then go into our cloud and be able to edit it and make it yours? And then from there, how can you set up your content and information so that your customer, your renter, can ask questions directly through that same conversational channel or the mobile device, which is what we use. And then lastly, we'll take a look at some of the insights and the economic impact that is available at your fingertips once you have that connected customer. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. I'm going to, let's see if the magic of computing can help us here. I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know when you can see this next screen. We're going live, and we're going to demo something. Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay. So we're in a technology that some of you may have heard of called Polly. She's our manifestation of the thought process that you can teach a parrot what you want it to say, and then Polly will want a cracker. And so here think of Polly as our technology that allows you to teach her what we want her to do, and then she will then go have the conversations on your behalf. It's fun. So let me put in, and you can do this on our website if you want to check some of this out. I'm using a tool here that's a little one layer deeper, but I'm going to just pick a company. I'm going to pick product that we might want to investigate. And then we have different kinds of conversations. There's what we call the first 30 days, the first 90 days, or even an ongoing annual basis from one semester to another, to the second year to the third. I'm just going to pick the first 30 days to demonstrate how quickly the journeys come together now. And I'm going to say, please be friendly and factual with the journey creation, with the conversations. And now what I'm doing is I'm asking Polly to go off and do a few things. She's going, and this is live. My fingers never left my hands. They're still here. We're, so she's now going out to the Ted Brown website. I could have picked any company. I just picked that. And looking at the rentals for alto saxes. She's looking at the template that I described for an alto sax that is in our library. She's looking at data that is in our data lake, not personal data, but data about behaviors and when to put the right information in front of the right renter at the right time. And then pulling all that together, maybe looking at some Reddit accounts or some feedback on CSATs and things like that, and bringing all that into the journey. And this used to be a reasonably long process with spreadsheets and conversations. And just in the last 60 seconds, we now have, Polly has given us the journey, which we find very exciting. And you can do this yourself. Now, what we're going to do, I'm going to show you where this ends up, but this is the draft version. And there's just a couple things to point out here. One is, not only did she go find the journey, but she's actually given us some thoughts around conversation areas in pre-boxing, or pre-unboxing, pre-arrival and unboxing, in usage and education. Like there might be some reasons to talk about squeaky sounds or sticky keys, and those all become conversations that we can add to the journeys. There's some cross-sell, upsell that might want to point out here things like lessons or some care and maintenance types of items. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those, but those are a place that our team can have a discussion with you and your team about adding some of those conversations. What I wanted to do is go over here to the preview. This is the preview of kind of how it would look and feel in the hands of one of your renters or renters' parents. And so here, and I'm not going to go through all 30 days, but you can see it's welcome to Ted Brown. Your alto sax is ready to make beautiful music. There's a little bit, and this is where Polly has pointed out, on day 2, a brand story gets the most engagement. So here's, since 1931, Ted Brown has helped musicians find their voice. Always checking in to see if you're ready for a practice session or would you like a little guidance. And you can see in here there's a link. And then as we continue down, it's, what do you like? Do you like jazz? Do you like, personal hobby? Is this returning after a break? What brings you back? School, band, and orchestra, et cetera, et cetera. To point out here, it includes a set of messaging and links to content that ultimately are driven by what our experience and the tens of thousands of renters out there are actually clicking on and engaging around. You can see there's a CSAT score here. One of my favorite parts of the journeys and conversations is if there is actually a lower score, like maybe I'm a 3, kind of still struggling a bit, right away you'd know. And it's not in a CSAT, it's in a conversation first before the parent or the customer is asked to go and leave a review. And so here you can see that it was a 5, and so, hey, would you be gracious enough to leave us a review? And there's the link. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but as I go down through this, you can imagine how you'd be automatically engaging your renter's parents and your renter, the kids, in falling in love with music and wanting to keep practicing. And we asked some questions here about how often do you practice, and those insights can lead to someone who isn't practicing a lot might need a little extra help, maybe we offer some lessons, or someone who's practicing a lot might want to come to a jam session at your store, or have some sort of a workshop that they could come to. So I'm going to leave this demo. That it was short and sweet, but that's the demo to see how with a couple of pushes of a button you really get up and running. And just to show you did you guys see like my screen change to a big hairy flowchart? So just to show you that, so this is what's going on under the covers or under the hood. Okay, so let me stop sharing that one, and I'm going to go back to.
While you bring that up, kind of have to say how brave you are. You're literally doing a live demo on a webinar. Most people, I know that's how much you trust it, but it's that is brave.
I agree. And I've just had enough go wrong that, you know what, if it went wrong, I would have just said that to everyone that it went wrong, and that's the way it goes, you know.
Yeah.
But by all means, thanks for that vote of confidence, Jake. Appreciate it. So what happened, we're now looking at, and I'm not going to keep live demoing now, just bring in a couple screenshots and we'll wrap it up. We're looking at the cloud. So this is your brand, your company's portal into the technology. And here's something called Journeys. And you can see here's our alto sax, and here's a couple of the answer questions. But more importantly is in the upper right-hand side. This is where you can literally edit the steps, and we work with you to do that. One of our team members has spent a lot of time in this industry. Her name is Erica, and she's on holiday, or she'd be joining us today just to say hi. But we do, I think we do a pretty good job of really wanting to work with your team. And you know, the workshop, you go in here and you click through, and you can edit the journey so that they're yours. Putting your own links down here, you can see down below it says link, click. The other thing I wanted to show you is I mentioned your renter or your parents are able to ask questions so that we looked at the proactive journey, the proactive conversation that you and these templates are driving, that says this is the best cadence and content. But you also have a place here in our cloud where you can store any of your documents, whether it's a web link or upload documents. Yesterday I was talking with someone about they have a whole series of help documents and how-tos. And so you can load all that in here. And then while your customer is going through the journey, they can actually ask questions back to the cloud and get curated answers. So I guess from my perspective, as I sort of think about moving toward, we'll open the panel up. I wanted to share this to say, imagine a world where all of your customers that are renting instruments are connected to you. And you have that ability to move them up the curve from the unknown to super customers and great renters. Imagine this is going on in the background, the amount of power you'd get from the data. And so I'll just wrap up with a couple comments on the data. This is actually a screenshot of Erica, who is, I can go right to this, the portal in the cloud, and I can drill in on Erica to find out what is her history. I call it like the Carfax. When I've bought a car before, I'd look at the Carfax to see the history from the first owner all the way through. This gives you instant access to insights around maybe Erica is playing a lot of alto sax, or maybe she's not. And now you can curate a segment of your current customers down to maybe we should make a phone call to her and ask her if she'd like to upgrade her instrument, or if she'd like to trade up, or if she'd like to continue. All of this, so we're not trying to completely eliminate the human touch. What we're trying to do is provide that ongoing automation, so ultimately you can work with your renters and your renters' parents to keep growing your business and get insights. And then last but not least, it's all about the economics when you kind of cut through it to okay, but does this really bring value? And we're very, very happy to be so measurable. So we have a chart here that you can see on the left-hand side. It might be hard to read. You put in your previous rental retention for a semester or a year, and then we calculate how many of your audience are still on the system and still engaging and interacting. And we can see that's about a 20% improvement, so 59.84%. And that was 377 more renters going into the next semester. And over here, it's hard to read, but the average rental spend on a monthly basis is $40. And so that literally translates to a figure of real cash, real revenue. And we want to help that happen. We want to help be partners with you and your businesses to help grow your business. So with that, I'm going to just wrap up with, everyone who's attending today is going to get a copy of a white paper, which is the results of two of our customers, redacted, but two of our customers who have shared their data with us to create a white paper really highlighting the higher engagement, stronger retention, incremental revenue value. We typically see 30% improvement in rental churn, or the lack of coming back to go the second year, and significant amount of real capital or cash or revenue generated. And even this other point that I had made about having your customer be able to ask questions without calling your support line, they reported 250 plus support inquiries were redirected. So with that, I'm going to move to be a panelist. Hopefully that was helpful. I want to thank all of you for what you do personally. As you saw at the beginning, I play guitar, and I just think music is so important for everything, including mental health and growth and education. And I know all of us on this call are passionate about that, and it's us included. So thank you for doing that, and I look forward to the panel discussion.
Great, thank you, Ken. Well, before we open up to audience questions, I would love to walk through a few questions with our panelists, since I think hearing from all three of you in your own words will paint a really full picture than any of us could do on our own. So if anyone in the audience does have questions, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A. And if we don't get to your question during the session, someone will follow up with you one-on-one after the event. Great. Well, let's start with the bigger picture. Retention in this industry isn't about keeping a customer. It's about keeping a student in the program, and that's gotten harder and harder. I would love to chat a little bit to understand why that is and what it actually takes to get ahead of it. And we'll start with you, Jake. From where you sit across the industry, what's changed that's made student and teacher retention harder to win, harder to measure than it used to be?
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate that as well. And for everyone being here and attending with us. So, yeah. So as you were saying before, it is about retaining customers, like at the high level, is always the big piece. We do spend a lot of time and resources trying to acquire new customers, but we probably don't spend as much time as we should engaging them and making sure they stay engaged. When it gets to the student level, that's even a little bit more tricky, because definitely for now, at this point, students have more distractions than ever, more abilities to not be playing a musical instrument literally in the palm of their hand. They could death scroll for 2 hours. That could have been a great practice session, right? So it's really difficult to get their attention, more and more so. And we also know once we get them into the program, if we can get them in, once they leave, it's very difficult to get them back in there. So for a student, a music student, the retention is even more critical. It's once they're gone, they're pretty much gone. So that's why it's so critical in the music side. And we know we're always trying to increase those levels of those students. And as you were mentioning there, Ken, it's average, I think, in our industry is about a 40 to 50% drop off rate of people that end up quitting. Uh, we got to change that number the best that we can. I know, Peter, we were talking before, you're on the Music Achievement Council, and they've always been big mantra about more to start, less to quit, right? And that's a huge area where BluStream can be particularly helpful.
Great. Thank you, Jake. And, just knowing all of you on the call here, I know, Peter, that's exactly what Jake just described as some of the pressures you were facing. And as Jake mentioned, you sit on the board of the Music Achievement Council. So you see this issue from both sides as a retailer and at the industry level. So I happen to know that you started with BluStream at just one store, and now you'll have six on the platform this fall. I'd love to hear a little bit about what made you confident enough in what it was doing for retention to expand that quickly.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, to Jake's point, we all understand the more to start part, and it's set up a good parent meeting and have all the right things and make sure everyone knows how to fill out a contract. And then it's like, okay, what happens now in the next 36 to 60 months? And a lot of that is kind of up in the air and happening in the ether. And 2 years ago, we were in a situation where we had lost a very large rental account, kind of for no fault of our own. And we said, we gotta get fewer kids to quit, even more so than we ever have, because we know we're not going to start this other chunk, at least for
Mm.
this year. And so we figured the best way to do that was to bridge the gap to those parents who are, getting information from music educators, getting information from their kids, but it's hard to tell what the level of that is, and is any of that directly related to um, either the instrument itself or why to stay with it. I mean, the last thing we want to, any of us that have children want to be, is the parent who either says, please, please, please don't quit, or you're playing or else. And I think we can give non-musical parents tools along the way to overcome some of these challenges and answer some of those questions without burdening the director with it, or just, I've got a 13-year-old and a 17-year-old in a vacuum of information. I'm either going to make the best guess I can make, or I'm going to go looking for information which may or may not be right. And anytime you have those things, it's just like, okay, maybe we should just quit because we're not sure what's going on. And I always used to view that as the times when you change teachers or you change buildings, because the
Mm.
student doesn't know what's about to come. But when the parent doesn't know what's about to come, it's really hard to back up that student on any level of insecurity or lack of information that the kiddo has. So, um, I always, when I talk to people that say, oh, well, everybody I know plays music, and you look at the NAM numbers, it's 5% are playing now and 20% have played at any point in their life. So for us to assume that every one of these parents has their kids in music because they had a great experience with music is just not the case. It can't be. And so we've got to fill that gap.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I'd love to go back in time for a moment. Peter, you were there for the very beginning of RM Side's journey with BluStream, back before any of the updates that Ken just showed in the demo. And you've stuck with it for years. And I think that says something important about what it actually means to be a technology partner and not just a vendor. And so I'd love you to chat with us a little bit about what it was like getting started with BluStream and what's kept you on the platform ever since.
Sure. Well, from the beginning, Ken mentioned Erica before, and Erica's been our BluStream guru, point of contact. She herds the cats at Robert M. Sides into some weekly or some monthly and quarterly meetings, and has done a great job of um, taking the information that's already in there that came from the generation before Robert M. Side, some of the early retailers, Ken mentioned Ted Brown, and sharing that with us, and then giving us the opportunity to make it our own and customize it. And then after that, it's systematized. And so this fall, when we went one store the first year, four stores the second year. This fall, we'll add two more stores. And we literally did a find and replace on a couple of the journeys because these two stores are operating under a different name. And it's like, okay, slide out Robert M. Sides, put in Johnston Buzz. And we now have journeys customized and set up for the other two stores. And man, we did all that on a 10-minute phone call, right? Or a Zoom call a couple weeks ago. And we'll be ready to go in 2 weeks when rental season starts. So not a big technology lift at all, web-based. So we're not downloading anything. Connects if anybody on the calls on Aimsy, I know about more than half the industry is. It's talking directly to Aimsy, both at the subcategory level and at the rental default level. So as long as your inventory is straight, there is no chance that the violin customer is going to get the how to play the trombone journey. But if they do, they can send you a message to say, "Hey, I'm not playing the trombone," and then you can go back and fix it, which is also great. We have people reaching out to us via our web chat and Podium, which is separate from BluStream, but um, they can contact us through this with those unexpected messages, and some of them we just screenshot, take them over to Podium, and and start a full conversation because now they're texting different parts of the company. If any of you are using Podium, you can have all of your employees in Podium. We only have 3 people in the BluStream system, and they delegate when it's an unexpected response to get people that proper information. But it's not a burden to have sort of that BluStream holding tank and then that Podium holding tank, and have people, because the last thing we want to do is have them say like, "Oh, sorry, you responded to us on BluStream. We'd prefer that you contact us on Podium." No, we want to respond the same way they're reaching out to us. So if it's phone, it's phone. If it's web chat, it's web chat, and let the customer dictate what the method of communication is. And this all enables us to do that.
And Ken, I know you're dying to chime in here, and I know I would love to hear from you about not only your thoughts on what Peter just shared. I'd love to point out the unexpected response tied to the vault that you shared in your demo, but also would love to hear you chat a little bit about what it means at BluStream for us to be a technology partner and how that's ingrained in our way of life here.
Yeah, I was moving around squirming in my seat as Peter was talking about the 2 year ago model. And we've got a lot of battle scars. I call them like I have bloody elbows and skinned knees and an occasional bloody nose, because along the way, our job, we just fundamentally in our culture believe that our job is to help you succeed, our customers succeed, and we don't know what we don't know. And so when you're an early technology, and now we're 10 years old, but into this space, over the last 3 to 5 years, you don't know what you don't know, and so you go out and find collaborators. And Peter, we really appreciate that you've collaborated with us, Ted Brown, Bertrand's, real deep collaborations. We should have a beer sometime and talk about the war stories of some of the things that went wrong that none of us thought. But what's so important is that we're with you. We just want you to never have a doubt. If you have a question, a concern, a new feature, something that you'd like to see happen to integrate with some other technologies or to some better training or resources, we are here. And that's our job. I'm only 35 years old in this body, but I've been through this scenario a few times in my career where a technology company that is trying to solve what I call an unmet need. So it's a need that was out there, but there was no way to do it before. And I remember talking with a company on Long Island that said they had the paper, and the students would come in and they'd fill out the forms, and then they'd see that renter again 6 months later or a year later when they dropped the instrument back off. And that was the amount of connection they had unless something went wrong and they came back in. And yet we all walk around with smartphones and I'm looking for my phone, and we're connected to each other all day long. And so it was this unmet need to try and bring technology into that realm. But I guess my answer, Emily, is that, it doesn't have to be perfect. But the company, your partner, your technical partner has to be committed that we will work out anything that heads our way. And I appreciate, Peter, you commenting about Erica, because I hope you feel that and you see that with her along the way, because we hear lots of stories about Erica in our industry about how great she is.
Well, this would actually be a great time. We've gotten a few questions from our attendees, and a couple of them fit really nicely here. One is for Peter. Someone's wondering if you've had a chance to try out any of the cross-sell opportunities that are available within the journeys.
Yeah, so in the journeys, there are some call to action things where people can opt in. So just to go back a little bit, when you rent from us, you are authorizing text messages and communications and things like that. And those are informational text messages, account related, other things. They can opt in, and Emily and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, they can opt in to more sales or add-on related content if they want to. And there's a percentage that do. I don't know what ours is, but I know our percentage on just the non-sales side of it is like 96% retention, which also tells me that even after a kid stops music, they're not opting out of their text messages, which is great. So they're still hearing from us. Which actually, if you think about it, they could have bought, an instrument somewhere else. So still having a connection to them is a good thing. But yeah, you can start to suggest things like, hey, how long have you been playing on your reeds? A reed typically lasts this long. A reminder to bring an instrument in for an adjustment or a checkup during a time of year that's convenient for the parent and convenient for the store, which generally is not August and September. We do a lot of work in May to try to get the string players to do their size up exchanges, which is not an add-on sale, but it's helping the shop out, it's helping the counter staff out, and it's helping the parent out. One less thing that they have to do during back to school for those kids going into that year 2 journey that may have grown out of their string instrument. So it is part of it. We can't force the people to opt into it. But I think the adoption rate's been pretty decent.
Yeah, and you just touched on what a lot of us like to think of as the secret sauce at BluStream, which is this product usage data. So you're mentioning that, we're able to really accurately suggest whether it's an add-on or an upsell or a cross-sell based on how a student is using their instrument, how frequently they're playing, what their interests are. And that's across industries we do that, but in music especially, I think the example with the students is a really helpful one to understand.
Okay.
So we have one more question about the tech for you, Ken, which is someone is wondering if Poly works in languages other than English.
We see. Yes. Yes. Yep, that's the power of technology today. Is I do remember 10 years ago that answer would have been, well, and I'm sure there are some edges there, but the answer is yes. Should not be a problem. The translators. Yeah, I'm going to just go down a tangent. My daughter-in-law is works in our school system here, and she works with students who English is a second language. And so she taught me that you can use your phone with Google Translator and the kids can ask questions and it actually automatically translate. That technology is on our side, Emily. So for that answer is yeah, that's cool.
Yes. And that same participant wants to confirm that it would be any language, specifically Korean, they're wondering about.
I actually think I've heard that we've done that, but let me why don't we take it offline and make sure that we can test it? And that's sort of my message here as we're going through is these days, I'll just keep going down a path here that these days, within a couple of hours, you can do what used to take a couple of months, and so my my words of wisdom today are try it. No,
Mm.
you don't have to have a commitment, just try it. So yes, please message us offline and we will try it with you and we'll see for ourselves right live. Jake, I'm not going to go pull up the system and try that one, live on a demo, but I think we should be happy to try that. Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
Ken,
great.
that's also a great reminder. We just enabled Spanish translation on our regular AIMSy supported website this year. And so for anybody doing that, there's an ASP.NET plugin for that, and it works wonderfully. And we have 3 or 4 school districts that we've always done the paper version, and we're long overdue in getting that. So make sure that matches your BluStream.
Right. So back to this concept of having a technology partner instead of just a vendor. Jake, I'd love to hear from you.
Mm.
You've watched this relationship from the outside for years, also across other retailers, not just RM side. So what does it actually look like in practice when a technology partner evolves well?
Yeah, that's a great one. I'm not a tech person, right? So I am blown away when I see how quickly BluStream evolves. It is, I mean, if I miss a meeting, a weekly meeting, by the time wait, that's now developed. Like as you said, Ken, it's hours now that things get changed, and BluStream's committed to that. They've always trying to make things better and faster and easier. Like Poly, right? That wasn't around a year ago, and now it's an essential part of it. It's amazing. So that's a huge piece. I would say the combination of what Ken said with their team, they are, first, I can just tell everyone in the audience, they are terrific human beings. I've never had anyone that we've worked with ever say anything else. They love working with them. They're there for you. They'll help you, and they make technology easy. It's not, this is not a scary thing. They walk you through it step by step, and you saw on the screen that Ken had. It's meant for people like me that can literally just fill in the box and no coding required. That's for sure. So yeah, it really it makes a big difference, Emily, having a partner like BluStream who's committed to developing it, making it easier, making it better, and constantly doing so.
Well, thank you for all the kind words about our team. We feel similarly about everyone as well. Um, so I'd also love to just double click on something you were chatting about in response to the last question, Peter, which is that, nobody's running BluStream in a vacuum. You have other tools and systems that you're also managing and integrating. And so I'd love to get a little more clear on what actually sets BluStream apart from other systems that you may be running and how it fits into your systems. So practically speaking, what do you use BluStream for at RM Sides, and what other tools are you running for other parts of your business?
Sure. Um, well, BluStream is primarily targeted towards our rental customers, both on the band and the orchestra side. And first year, second year journeys. We'll actually have a third year journey this year. So we'll see. I mean, those are the kids that are probably lifers at this point, and eventually looking at their second instrument, their performance level instrument. So that third journey will start to take maybe a slightly different turn than the first two were in terms of retention. Um, and then we have Podium that we work with on top of that. And both of those, like I mentioned earlier, really kind of complement each other because Podium's a everything, because we sell pianos. We're more than just school music. So we're getting guitar questions, lesson questions, everything else. And
Mm.
we know what's coming in, through that. But, um, you know, I can tell you from firsthand. I mean, Podium's have been a responsive company, but I can't call up anyone at Podium and tell them, can you send this to the dev team and have them do and get it done in the next 6 months? That's not the type of relationship and not the type of company that they are at the scale they're at. Whereas I think BluStream can be a lot more responsive to things like that. And then both of those are we're taking payments over Podium and posting those into Aimsy, and we're pulling the Aimsy information out to your system. So it really works very well together, that everything is covered. And but once you start doing things like web chat, if you're not already, and text journeys, you find that your contact us page on your website, it can't go away, but you might get one a month, because people just are anticipating, with most contact us pages, it's just going somewhere into the ether and not getting responded to. Or the contact us page is this big on a phone versus speech to text. They're using Siri to talk to BluStream, and send a message. So that really is, I think, the future of communicating with customers that way.
Right.
I'd love to
Okay.
add a comment there if I could, Emily.
I was just about to ask you to, so yes, go ahead.
Okay, okay. I actually think that I love the way, Peter, you were describing that. And it does take a village. Not everybody can be everything to everyone, right? And so I love the way you've articulated clarity around the different tools to solve the problems of connecting to customers and having live access. That was really excellent. You talked about the point of sale system, and then the support and outbound system, and then the automation system that's going to just sort of, while we're having this conversation, there are messages that have been going out.
Mhm.
And hopefully now to the right instruments and the right people who have those instruments. I love your example, because I think there was a time back in the day where that might have happened on a POC. But my point is, I love the way you articulated that it does take a village. And Jake, you and your team, the way you've embraced us, culturally, I call it, we're so aligned.
Mhm.
And then as we go out into the market together, you've got such credibility and uh, so many great relationships that you can help. That's why we decided to work together over a turkey
Mhm.
sandwich a couple of years ago,
That's
uh,
right.
to say, what, why don't we work together and try and, it's part of the whole village, to try and make
Yep.
this all happen.
Yep. Yep.
So really appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I remember Erica helped us even with, for the retailers on the call. You do a spring rental that doesn't get delivered till September. Well, the last thing you want is the journey to start in June when they don't have their instrument saying, "How are you liking your violin?" And so we workshop that of like, okay, we're going to carve them out into a delayed delivery journey. And and that was really, really important, because fall is way
Mhm.
busier than spring, but everybody would have opted out of those messages, and we
Mm.
would have never known it. And
Wow.
so it's a good solution.
Right.
Well, I know we've seen some data that Ken shared from the white paper, and I will be sharing that over email with all of our participants today. But I'd love to bring it back to RM side specifically. And Peter, if you can put a number on it, if you could share what's actually changed for RM side since implementing BluStream, whether it's retention, revenue, or time saved on support, anything that you want to call out, I'm sure the participants would really love to hear your personal experience.
Sure. We've been very fortunate that our return rate has been around that 40%, which is below the industry average. We've been able to make some dents in that, but I honestly believe that given the some of the headwinds that Jake talked about earlier, that even maintaining that 40% return rate
Mhm.
is a big win, given all the other things that are in the noise that's out there and the other things. So, in that sense, uh, even on months where we feel like, oh, maybe we just treaded water, I'm like, that's a
Mhm.
win. And the thing that's also really hard to tell is, did the person make it from that was going to quit in December, maybe gave it one more concert, and obviously that's still a win, that they got to one more concert or two more concerts, even if they didn't become a lifelong musician. Because the worst thing for all of us is that if that child has some sort of experience that's not ideal, when they grow up to be a parent and their
Mm.
child says, I want to join the band. They were like, no, wait, let me tell you how awful it was when I did it. And that just closes that door for how many more people down the line in that are connected to that person that had that bad experience. So there are little micro wins that you're never going to quite quantify. Um, but I can't think of a more important component of our business to have frequent contact with.
Mm.
We have lesson customers and some will stay for years and years and years. The average one's probably 12 to 15 months. The rental families, you meet them in fourth grade and you generally see them up through 12th grade, you know. And when they stop coming in the store, you're like, oh yeah, Billy graduated and he has to buy his own stuff now. Um, so 8 years for a fourth grader is a really long time to have contact with a family. So it's really quite important that we be proactive in that relationship and provide. And it's not like I said we said before it's 99% value and value added and information and how to, and 1% if they opt in on sort of the sales side of it. And so no one ever, I think that's why the retention rate's so high, because it's not buy. Oh, here's how to adjust your bow. Buy. Here's how to
Mm.
rough up rosin to get it started. It's the exact opposite way around. And I think we all know you have to give to get,
Mm.
and not the other way around. And this does that.
I'd love to add to that. Again, I'm sorry, Emily, but just 30 seconds. One of the uniquenesses of our IP is that exactly what you said, Peter, is that the journey of owning or using uh, physical products, we all go from beginner to maybe advanced beginner, intermediate, advanced expert, and then our needs change. And that's one of the things that we're all about is the journeys and the usage data that you talked about, Emily, stimulate the next messaging to keep moving up the curve on skill toward that super customer. But it's the skill you described it from a fourth grade going up to 12th. All the needs change. That's the tricky part. That's the
Mm.
hard part to automate and just continually move forward on. And so that's really one of the things that is sort of under the hood that you wouldn't think about it if it wasn't obvious. Whereas the same platform and technology will be personalized throughout that whole journey. And in fact, in parallel, the instruments are aging, and they're going, or the products are aging from brand new, just out of the box, or maybe it's a 10-year-old, in my world, a 10-year-old guitar or a 50-year-old guitar, and their needs change. So you have these two moving parts that come together to create a wonderful personalized experience through some conversations and messaging.
And Ken, you put on top of that probably, depending on how rural your customer base is, 90+% of your rental customers will never set foot in your store.
Mm. Good point.
It is
Interesting.
for us. I
Mm.
mean, we're in counties with less than 50,000 people for the most part, except for Pittsburgh. And so we expect that a lot of our best customers will never darken our doorstep, or may do it 3 times during the entire time they're renting or something like that. So
Mm,
outbound is really very important in that aspect.
excellent.
Great. Well, I have one last question for each of you before we wrap up, kind of rapid fire questions to close us out. The first is for Peter. If a retailer on this call is sitting on the fence right now, what's one thing you would tell them?
Hmm. I would say talk to somebody at BluStream, and I mean anyone's welcome to contact me, but you're bound to know somebody who's already using the platform. Just chat with them and get the information right from somebody you already know. And there's the system we did a rent to own on BluStream, 1 store, then 4 stores, then
Hmm.
6
Hmm.
stores.
Hmm.
Dipped your toe in the water, and the worst thing that can happen is somebody says, "Oh, thanks for the text messages, but I don't need them." But I don't think you're going to find that to be the case. So reach out to somebody you know, get some benchmarks, and give it a go.
And Jake, for you, why do you tell retailers in your network to make the leap?
Um, I go back to, again, we spend a lot of time on getting new customers. We don't always spend the time we should strengthening those relationships. It'd be great if we could have a customer service person for every single customer we have that sits by the phone 24/7 and calls them up to check in every day and answers questions, but that's just not realistic. But BluStream does that. I mean, essentially and it learns. It learns as what the customer is looking for. So that I'd say is a terrific reason. And kind of following on what Peter said, BluStream has specifically set this up to make it very easy to get involved. It's scalable. You do not have to start with all of your contacts, all of your customers at once. You can start with a small segment or one store, as you said, Peter, and just test it out. You can see that we had the demos. So it's a very easy thing to get into. A lot of help. It's not a scary process at all, and you can try it out. And if it doesn't work, you can always stop. There's no long-term contracts. It's the kind of a thing where you can ease into it and see what you think. So that'd be my recommendation.
Thank you. And Ken, to close us out, what do you want people walking away today thinking or keeping in mind?
I'm going to echo what Jake and Peter said, and I think the risk to try it is reasonably low, and it's a small investment of time, and it's very scalable. So start small. We like starting small, and then let it go from there. But I just we invite anyone to learn whatever we have. Our resources are yours. We're here to help educate as well as try things, and we know that. I think Peter, you made a comment. The renters, consumers. We're in other industries, so I apologize for saying consumers. We're in wellness products and beauty products and all that. But those end consumers, we average over 90% stay on the journeys once they're started for years and years, which I think, as you said, Peter, like it says something when you've got a connection and they want to be there. They appreciate it. I didn't even ever think about it, even if they returned a rental or they bought an instrument somewhere else, you now have a connection to that particular person. That's very cool. So try it is my message. Give it a try.
Well, with that, Ken, if you could pull up our slide that has your contact information and Lance's contact information at Connolly, I will close us out here. We're right at time. So a huge thank you to Ken, Jake, and Peter for being so generous with your time and your insight today. If there's one thing I hope everyone takes away from this session, it's this. It's that getting started with BluStream has never been easier, and the results speak for themselves. Whether it's reduced churn, incremental revenue, or simply giving your team back time they used to spend on support, the data is there, and so is the support to help you get there. For those of you ready to take the next step, we have a special incentive for anyone who signs up after this session. There are two ways to get in touch. You can email Ken or Lance. Their email addresses are right here, and they'll follow up with you directly. I will also be following up with everyone who registered today with a recording of the session, access to the white paper, a link to our customer stories hub where you can hear from more retailers like RM Sides, and additional ways to connect directly, including a calendar link for Lance's schedule. Thank you again for joining us, and we're excited to help you get started.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.